All right, officially good afternoon, no longer morning. Welcome to session 4 of the Counselor Conference. Thank you all so much for being here. If you're looking for the designing career opportunities for career-bound students, this is the session. So welcome. We have 2 wonderful speakers prepared for you today. Just a couple housekeeping. You are welcome as attendees to put questions or comments in the chat in Zoom. Therefore, our presenters can see that anything that you're putting in the chat in Zoom. If you have other things that you're putting into Whova in the chat or the Q&A, I'll be monitoring that and letting our presenters know if there's any comments or questions along the way. And then at the end of the session, if you don't mind, in the Whova application, right underneath the session title, you'll see a button that says rate session. We would love for you to rate the session once you're done attending it. And then the material, the PowerPoint presentation is available for download also in the Whova application at the bottom of the session page, as well as in the documents area. So a couple different ways. And it looks like someone already put the link to the presentation also in the chat in Zoom. So you're welcome to take it from there. And I think that's all the housekeeping I have. And I'm going to turn it over to Jayme Cambra and Nicole Moersch. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie, and welcome everyone. Thanks for being here today. And as Leslie said, please participate. And you know, Nicole and I are here to lead this conversation, but we're certainly not the experts. And many of you in this room probably have a lot of insight to share. So when the opportunity arises, please feel free to share in the chat or through Whova. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jayme Cambra. I'm the counselor on special assignment for the San Dieguito Union High School District. And in that role, I support our college and career programming, which is awesome. It's an opportunity to work with all of our middle and high school sites to develop really meaningful programs and events and activities to inspire and engage our kids in what they're going to do after high school. And in the past, I worked as a high school counselor at Torrey Pines High School in San Diego, as well as Palos Verdes High School in LA County. And I'm so happy to co-present with my friend and colleague, Nicole Moersch. And Nicole, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Nicole Moersch. I'm the K-12 Pathway Coordinator for the San Diego Imperial region. I get the opportunity to support students at the high school, the middle and high school level, and I work with the schools, community partners, and industry partners to connect and grow and improve career education programs. So it's a great gig. Prior to that, I was a classroom teacher for many years, and I feel very passionately about career education. So thank you, Jayme, for presenting about that with me today.
Of course. And it looks like to get us started, are you doing the slides, Nicole?
I am. Let's do it.
Here we go. So we're framing the conversation today with this question and thought. How can we showcase career opportunities for our students in meaningful and informative ways? And that's our goal to discuss today. And in doing so, we're going to highlight the importance of essential skills and employability skills, which I'm sure many of you hear often and discuss with your students many times, the value in skills. We're going to talk about how you can guide students to develop realistic career goals for themselves, and also highlight career exploration, education, and training opportunities for students, looking at how we can market our career programs and the best practices that Nicole and I value in this process. And knowing as educators, it's hard for us to really toot our own horns and market all the great work we're doing, but it's essential in this process. We're also going to touch on labor market information and the value that plays in educating our students about careers that are open to them in their regions. And then we're going to summarize at the end with the 5 W's and 1 H of the why are we doing this, where do we do it, and how do we do it? And then, of course, resources for you to refer back to as you reference this presentation. And in all great meetings, we have norms. So we promise and we will be on task and on time with your time we value. And I'm sure many of you are at work right now, so you're multitasking. And we will have clear objectives. We will clearly define action steps and strategies for you, because the goal is that when you walk away from this meeting, you have tangible ideas and thoughts to take with you. And we will have a goal for you at the end, to something to work on and focus on. And then always, always, always keeping our students in mind. They are the forefront of this conversation. We are using Mentimeters for feedback, I believe twice in the session. So if you have your phones next to you, I think that's the easiest way. Kind of put that and you'll be able to scan the QR code to answer the 2 questions that we have embedded in the presentation.
Yep. All right, so we're going to start by discussing the importance of essential skills and employability skills. When we came up with this presentation, when we organized the overview, we were looking at the way that Kevin Fleming organized some of his work around career education. He is a career education guru. If you haven't looked up some of his literature, I encourage you to do so. But one of the things we use to frame this piece is the 4 skills and 4 steps of a successful career. And he breaks those down by first addressing the 4 skills that you would need. So he talks about academic skills and knowledge, life skills, employability skills, and technical skills. So those are kind of the 4 different areas. We're going to show you a quick video, a couple minutes, and it talks about that idea. And then after that, we're going to ask you to respond to one of the questions on your phone. So take a look at this video. Hopefully you can hear the audio okay.
Today, we're going to talk about preparing for life after high school, getting a job, finding a career, and earning a living. The question, of course, is what does success really look like? The American workforce has changed a lot recently. Occupations in every industry now require a combination of both academic knowledge and technical skills. One without the other is no longer enough. Having both makes you more employable. Today, we want all high school students to graduate ready for both college and careers. In the next few minutes, you'll understand how to match who you are with who you want to be, and ultimately, how to get there. As you prepare for your future, you'll need to develop skills in 4 specific areas to achieve your dreams. Every day in school, you are gaining academic skills and knowledge. The classes you are taking matter in the world of work. But it's not just about getting good grades. Challenge yourself to learn how to apply the knowledge you are taught. Apply theories and concepts to real-world problems. This will help you be more competitive upon graduation, and you'll have additional options. You can also earn college credit now while still in high school through articulation, dual enrollment, or concurrent enrollment. So take your classes seriously and become the strongest reader, writer, and thinker you can be. Adults are expected to know other things like life skills. These are about everyday real-world survival. They include things like how to bounce back after a bad experience, how to manage money and create a family budget, and how to remain healthy through good nutrition. Life skills will give you a strong foundation for your future. Local employers also expect certain things of people they hire. These are called employability skills. In fact, people who get the best jobs and keep them have this nailed. Employers expect you to have these skills from your very first day on the job. Things teachers often ask you to do, like meeting deadlines, working in teams, and organizing projects. These are employability skills. Learning how to manage your time, creatively solve problems, and communicate appropriately will help you prepare for the world of work. Then there are technical skills. These can be very industry specific. They include the ability to apply what you have learned to working a computer, running a machine, or monitoring a patient's heart rate. High school students that are tech savvy with skills in areas of interest to them will find jobs, keep them, and get promoted more quickly. Find ways now to earn certificates and industry credentials in technical fields on your way to graduation. Each of these 4 areas matter to adults, including college professors and employers. Local employers will want to know what you can do and what you can do well, not just what diploma hangs on your wall. In fact, technical skills are part of the new currency in today's world. The academic knowledge, career awareness, and technical skills you gain during high school will serve you well as you pursue your next steps in life.
Alrighty, so that was one of the videos that we hoped to share with you. Let me go back here. Oops, sorry. And we're going to have you respond using a Menti survey. So I'm going to ask that you go to menti.com, or easier yet, just point your camera on your phone at this QR code on the screen and it should take you directly there. So you don't even have to open another window. Just literally point your camera on your phone at the screen. It should pull it up. I'll double check to make sure it works here with my own phone.
I just checked, it works.
It works, okay. And then that way you don't have to type in the code, but if you are using a computer, the code is 51012596. And what we're gonna ask you is to rank these skills in terms of importance for future success. So Kevin Fleming indicates that all 4 of these are very important: employability skills, academic skills and knowledge, life skills, and technical skills. I can see people are already starting to answer because we're getting updates to our Menti quiz. So thank you. So continue to use this QR code and or a new survey. Thank you guys. We see the responses coming in. I'll show you what it's looking like on our end. So you should be looking now at the ranking, and you can see that employability skills and life skills are first and second, technical skills, academic skills and knowledge are third and fourth, and it's jumping around as people are responding. So thank you guys for your input on that. And, you know, whether you are a counselor or an educator, an administrator looking at some of these sessions today, you have a different lens when you work with students, but all of us want to provide, you know, training, support, guidance so that our students are going to be career successful. And it looks to me like, based on the responses we're getting, these are holding strong as our first and second: employability and life skills. That was kind of what we were thinking too. So, you know, we're in agreement on that.
Glad we're all on the same page.
Yes, glad we're all on the same page. Exactly. I'm going to jump back over here and I'll give you a little bit of background about that. So you're not the only ones, right, who feel that way. There was a study done in 2020, our Center of Excellence, people who do a lot of metrics and get a lot of data to support career education and employment opportunities in San Diego. They went around to local employers. They went around to thousands of employers in San Diego County, and they asked the question, what is the single most important employability skill that you want people to have in your job? What is it on, you know, what's the top skill you list on EdJoin, or what's the top skill you list on GoDaddy or any of these places where they list jobs? And then based on the feedback, they organized the responses into 25 skills, and then they grouped them into 6 different categories. Now I have this one circled here just as an example. So for example, out of 67,127 job postings that listed effective oral, written, and communication as their most important thing that they wanted hiring for, these were some of the smaller or sub-skills that fit underneath that. So when you look at things like these employability skills, not only are they beneficial because they apply to any subject area and any sector, but you can see based on the data that these are really highly found to be highly valued by employers. They want people to be able to do these things. So we want to make sure we prepare our students accordingly. When it comes to life skills, or what we call essential skills, San Diego County Office of Ed has put together a great resource with some of the skills listed. And, you know, there's a lot of different organizations out there that teach these, but you see a lot of overlap, right? You see the collaboration and teamwork, you see the communication piece here. So whether we're talking about life skills or employability skills, we know that they're robust and they're highly valued by employers. Just as an aside, before I turn this over to Jayme, any of these document slides that you see today with this little icon in the corner, that means there's a linked resource there. And we'll talk about those resources at the end, but each of these has a link to that information.
And I noticed Leslie's been adding in the chat the links to those resources. So thank you.
Yay, thank you, Leslie. All right, Jayme, why don't you give us the overview here?
Perfect. So that video we first showed you, and I don't know how familiar all of you are with Kevin Fleming. I've heard of him, and I would like to meet him if anyone knows him. I think he's a great career education advocate, and I believe he comes out of Orange County. So their Orange County CTE program uses his videos a lot. And when Nicole and I were designing this presentation, we were trying to find something that would capture the essence of what we're sharing. And without recreating the wheel, we thought these videos were great. And I shared a few of them with actually our district counselors as they were designing grade level presentations, because I think it's a great way to capture the conversation with students too, and embedding those when you're standing in front of a group of students, and referencing a quick 1 to 3 minute video is a great way to engage students. So I did get confirmation that it's going well, and one of the high schools that we shared it, they've used it in their sophomore level presentations, and the kids are really liking it. So if these videos, you all have open access to them as well. Thank you, Jennifer Magruder. She's one of the amazing counselors at Torrey Pines that used it, and the students were happy about it. So Kevin talks about, he has 4 lessons in these video series, and the The first two, first one talks about the 4 skills and then high wage jobs. And the third and fourth are what we're focusing on today in our conversation, supporting students in developing career goals. With that, self-awareness, career exploration, what education and training is needed, how do we market that information? And then the other part is, how do you design that plan? And Kevin has a specific 10-year plan, and we're not going into that today, but based on the systems you work with in your school sites, how can you design an easy way or a simplified way for students to develop a plan, similar to those 4-year plans or 6-year plans that we work with students all the time. So starting with, how can students develop realistic career goals? As you work with students, and I'm sure many of you have these conversations in different ways, Nicole and I looked at it as starting the conversation with an emphasis on self-awareness and career exploration. So for students to know who they are as human beings before they can determine what they want to do with their lives, and trying to break it down in simple steps in that way, because it is it is such a big conversation. And I didn't really realize until recently how much our students are thinking about this. They hear it in the media, they hear it from teachers, counselors, their parents. What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? You need a high paying job. You want to be successful. So there's a lot of pressure that's put on without intention. And I think for us to work with our students and really break down specific questions that allow them ownership in the process. So some of those questions are, what are my interests? And giving them the ability of, you are who you are. You were born this way. You have innate interests, abilities, and skills that you're good at. Let's capitalize on that and identify those, and then design a career plan from there. So what are my interests? What career is interesting to me right now? It could be a 7th grader, 8th grader, sophomore. What is interesting to me right now? What are my skills? What am I good at? What am I interested in? What jobs are available right now? What's happening in the world that I live in? So that could be by region, by community. How much can I make in a job in my area? So kind of backwards designing, where do I want to live? How much can I make in these jobs that I'm interested in? And does that match up? Can I live in a community and making the wage that I can make? And then looking at what education is a part of that. So having these initial conversations, in our district, we do these in grade 7 and 8, just to try to get the conversation started, but very low ask. There's no intent to stress out or pressure the students, but just get those conversations going so that they're starting to think about it. And then, transitioning into exploring and training of the career process. So in San Dieguito, we use a program called Thrively in our middle schools. In our high schools, we use California colleges and Career Zone, different tools that you can access to guide students through these processes. And I know different districts have different programs, and we've linked a lot of resources here, because you may be in the place where you're looking for a new tool. There's a lot of funding that's come through different CTE programs and different grants through the state that's designed to purchase certain tools for this purpose. And there's a great chart that's linked in the upper right-hand corner that compares a lot of different these programs and kind of the different variables of them, so you can see what's right for your school or district and your students. The programs circled in blue do have a fee associated. So some of them offer like a free version, and then you can pay to actually have more in-depth version. And then the ones in yellow are free. And so they're all web-based, and you can access them for your students. So we just wanted to provide a toolbox for you to access and go back to as you're navigating this process. And an example to share, this is from the California consortium, the Community College Consortium. And there's a link in the upper right-hand corner, but this is their guide of all of these different career planning tools. And so they've kind of given a snapshot of each one, and you can click on each program to learn more about it. And I think, is this me?
This is me. All right. So when we're talking about career exploration continuum, we know that it doesn't necessarily look the same at each level, right? So when you're talking about it at the elementary or middle school level, it's more about awareness and exploration. Jayme mentioned doing some of these inventories, learning about yourself and your strengths, and then maybe just learning about what careers are out there. So you might be doing job shadowing, you might be having guest speakers or career fairs. It's not until high school that you really get into the preparation and the training, and there's more of an application emphasis. So in high school, you're doing things like maybe doing an internship or a practicum, or you're meeting with a mentor or an industry professional that's going to guide you. And that's where we see some of our career pathways as really beneficial, because they're teaching those specific technical skills. But we want to make sure that, you know, the conversation starts earlier than just having them enroll in a high school pathway. So having some of those experiences in the elementary and middle school years is really informative and, you know, valuable for kind of starting the conversation. All right. Now, we know that the landscape looks different at every site. We've got different things going on in each district regarding whether it's in person or whether it's virtual. So what I'm going to ask for this next part is go ahead and go to menti.com, or again, just use the QR code. Your phone's probably already queued up there, in truth. And what we're going to ask is, what options are available for students for career exploration right now? Right now, in December of 2021, what is available? Is it mostly virtual? Is it in person? Is it both? We're trying to get kind of an idea that, you know, what's out there and what options are available to you in terms of, can you even have guest speakers on campus? Can you have the kids going places?
If you're using your phone and it automatically links to the first question, there's a little message on the top that says go to next slide. So select that to answer the question.
So I see we've got folks answering. Thank you. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. All right. And I'll change the screen so you can kind of see the results as they come in. This is what we're looking at so far. We have people answering. It's about 50-50 so far, with some in-person opportunities. A lot of you say, though, that it is still virtual only. So that's important to note, because if we're talking about giving kids these rich experiences to really turn on, you know, career readiness, we don't necessarily have that option right now in the current landscape. So we have to be creative about how we offer those resources to kids.
And as we're designing these career opportunities, it's always good to know that you can have those in person, and then now we've designed these virtual opportunities to kind of have a hybrid model. Even when we are back in a moment where we can go back to in person, you can always supplement with virtual, just for, as you've probably learned, to access parent and student access, evening events, things that may be a nice addition to just have more people participate, if nothing else, and a broader scope to get your communication out.
All righty. Well, thank you guys for your feedback. It's looking like it's pretty split, but we still have, you know, the good news is that things are opening up. We do have in-person opportunities that are kind of back onto the school landscape. The other piece, if we want to talk about good news as a result of quarantine, trying to look on the bright side, is that there are a lot more resources available now when it comes to career exploration because of our forced distancing, right? So there's a lot of virtual and in-person opportunities that exist now that didn't exist before. When we think about guest speakers, college fairs, work site tours, job shadows, those are things that 3 or 4 years ago were only options in person. And now you have a lot more virtual resources. We want to make you aware of those, like I said, whether you're a counselor or an educator or an administrator, because that might be your go-to option. And it's a light lift as a first step in getting some of these experiences out to kids. So as an example, the San Diego County Office of Ed has a whole virtual resource portal of site tours and employer panels. So let's say you're in a district where virtual is the only option for you, or transportation is an issue. You know, you can go to the San Diego County Office of Ed website, which we have linked here, and like by sector, you can look up resources. So let's say you're at arts and entertainment. You'll notice they have recorded guest speaker presentations of ones that they've already held that you can watch with your students. They have a site tour here of a broadcasting studio if you wanted to have your students virtually walk through it. You know, we know that it's not necessarily, you know, as it's not the same certainly as being there in person, but it's at least giving kids an opportunity to access some of that information. The other thing is when we talk about some of those paid options like NEPRIS, previously you were looking at that toolbox of career exploration, and NEPRIS is a paid one. But guess what? There's a lot of free opportunity available on some of these paid sites. So for NEPRIS, as an example, when you click on it and just create a free account, or students can do this too, they can have access to this Career Explorer where you can just type in a keyword like I'm interested in becoming a teacher. Don't we hope, right? We need more teachers. And then when they click on it, there's all these different teachers they can look at. You know, maybe I want to be a history teacher or whatever. And they talk about, here's what this person does. Here are some of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you have to be in this profession. This is very kid friendly. Here's the average income of what you might make. And there's even some links down here to videos and career videos that they can watch about people that are in some sort of an education field. Now, again, this is from a paid resource, but there's a lot of this that's available free to people that are sharing this information with students. Jayme, I think we're back to you for some career education pieces.
Perfect. So again, depending who's in the room with us, from a counseling perspective, I think it's really important to note that career education has shifted significantly, as we all know, in the past 10 years. In 2008, it really became defined CTE pathways, and districts started rolling out slowly different intentional courses that are sequenced together so that students could become CTE pathway completers. And throughout the state of California, that's grown in those past 10, mostly past 5 years. And so I know in most of our schools, we have CTE pathways, and even middle schools, we have almost like pre-CTE courses to prepare students to be a pathway participant or completer in high school. And I think it's important to highlight that these courses are different than standalone electives. They have 12 high quality elements that are required for the teachers who teach those courses to embed in the course content, which makes them really unique and intended to prepare students with skills and certifications that will get them directly into the workforce if that's their post-secondary plan after high school. So one of those elements is early college credit. So that can come in the form of articulation, dual enrollment. Students can always take classes at community college on their own, which is concurrent enrollment. So you may be hearing a lot more buzz about these things as the years go on, because there's a lot of energy. AB 30 was passed for the early college credit. So there's an additional layer of energy there, and a lot of work being done with community colleges and high schools to allow students the opportunity to get college credit during high school, to create that bridge to community college, which is awesome. The community colleges have also put out a program finder tool that I believe it was last year that was released, and it's really helpful. We've linked it here. It's also linked in the toolbox. And this is a great resource for your students who maybe community college is their plan. They know that's what they want. They're currently in a high school CTE pathway. Potentially, maybe they're taking a business and finance class, and they know that they are going to be a completer, and they're really interested and engaged in that. And so they can click on this and look in the state of California at the 116 community colleges we have, which ones offer programs that link to that pathway. And so they can either, if they've had skills or certifications done in high school, it'll carry over to kind of link into that community college experience. So it's a great resource to kind of get it full circle and provide that bridge for your students. And then I think it's just helpful to have that knowledge of understanding as a counselor, especially when you're working with students doing course selection or four-year planning, or in middle school when you're talking to your students about high school, highlighting CTE pathways as a great way to get involved and stay connected, because you're also, depending on the way the school designs it, there tends to be a cohort of students going through those pathways together, and they participate in leadership opportunities and different things even outside of the classroom that can be a good school connector. This is an example of a career pathway plan that we developed in our district, and I know a few other districts that I've worked with. Poway, for example, has another great one that is similar. So this is a tool used, wearing your counseling hat during course selection to allow students to understand the CTE classes that you offer, and then the elements that make them unique. So we designed this to highlight articulation, work-based learning, any student certifications, and leadership opportunities. Those were the big ones the year that we did this one. And on the front side, you can see those elements. On the back side of the document, we linked all of the, in San Diego County, which is of course where we are, certificate programs that align with that pathway, 2-year programs that align with that pathway, and then 4-year programs that align. And so in some cases, we usually used public universities. In San Diego, we have quite a few public and private. And in other cases, I use private as well. So on the very bottom is labor market information, and then the very, very bottom, skills that are important. So linking back to what Nicole mentioned early in the presentation, trying to have one document where the students can see it all outlined will really, I think it builds more awareness for them of the value of these courses and what they can do with it even after high school. So that's a good example if that's something you want to create on your own for your own district. And now we have another video. This one's shorter. It's only about a little over a minute. And this is the video that actually got Nicole and I the most excited about Kevin Fleming and his content. So as you watch this quick minute, we want you to think about how many paths to career success does your school offer? So if you're standing back and thinking about your program.
The true ratio of jobs in our economy is 1 to 7. For every occupation that requires a master's degree or more, 2 professional jobs require a university degree, and there are over half a dozen jobs requiring a 1-year certificate or 2-year degree, and each of these technicians are in very high-skilled areas that are in great demand. This ratio is fundamental to all industries. It was the same in 1960 and will be the same in 2030. After researching all the possibilities, the third step is to then set a tentative career goal based on your interests and abilities. And be sure to consider the range of wages in your local area in alignment with what you learned about yourself. This career doesn't have to be what you want to do for the rest of your life. Just set a goal of what you want to do first. The fourth step is to create a 10-year plan. This plan should include your tentative career goal, the education and training you'll need, and the realistic steps you plan to take to get there. Having such a plan will help you when you pursue an internship, select a college major, and seek employment. Also, be sure to make both a plan A and a plan B. Setbacks are inevitable, but don't worry. It's how you respond to these challenges that matter. We suggest developing strong coping skills and learning how to work well in teams. It is important to be able to pivot quickly and persevere down an alternative path towards your goal when obstacles arise. This could include community college, military service, a university, volunteering, registered apprenticeship programs, industry certifications, or gaining work experience. There are multiple paths to success.
All right. And there you have it. Moving right along.
So this is something I think we all share with each other all the time, but in my, I don't know, 16, 17 years as a counselor, it has been so interesting to watch the progression of the questions students ask about college. I mean, it's always been at the forefront, and it always depends on the community you work in and the students you serve. But we talk about college a lot, and it used to be, college or work, and in many cases, college for students, community college, 4-year college. And it's really shifted. And I think we're trying to be part of this awareness that is coming to play, that one is not better than the other. These are just different options that our students have. And looking now at what we can really highlight and define is spelling out a little bit more specifically to them, what are your options after high school? And that it can include community college, military service, attending a university, volunteering or apprenticeships, getting an industry certification, going straight into the workforce in some way, in addition to college. And I know when we're planning those conversations with students, especially when you're in front of a large group of students and you have students in there that are planning to go to an Ivy League school, and you have students that haven't even thought about what they're going to do yet. You have students that may want to go to the military, and they feel like the minority. They feel like they can't celebrate and be excited about those paths. And I think our job as counselors is to really foster that piece and celebrate all of these opportunities in equal ways, so that students can really connect with what is right for them, not what is the most popular or what is the most respected in the community. So in that conversation, back to this document that we already showed you, it's nice to lay out to that pipeline of, oh, you're interested in business and finance and you like that. If you want to go get a certificate, you can, you can do a 15-week course at this place and get a certificate and go directly into the workforce doing that work. Or you can go to a 2-year college and get an AA degree in that program and get to go directly into the workforce. Or you can go get a 4-year degree and further, and you can even get a master's or a doctorate. And so giving them it's up to them, and their options are there, but it can all center around the career as the goal. It used to be so much about, well, where do you want to go to college? And I think that's still a conversation for many of our students, but it's so much needs to be, what do you want to do after that? And does this connect with that goal of yours? So breaking down the bucket of the different career programs, we wanted to highlight 4 because they are different and they have different attributes that I think is helpful to share with students. So the first, apprenticeships. You all know what these are, but students can usually participate in these after age 16 or 18. Some are paid, some are not paid. In San Diego County, we have 2 that are pretty prominent that we work with a lot: ABC Apprenticeship Training and Southwest Carpenter. And both of these relate to priority sectors that are vastly growing, especially in, I believe, in many counties, but San Diego for sure. So HVAC and carpentry and the business and construction trades. There's so many a need for workforce employment and high paying middle skilled jobs. So apprenticeships is one area for students to even start when they're in high school. And then industry certification. Some of your CTE classes may already have these embedded. OSHA, Valvoline, CPR, First Aid, Microsoft Office. These are a few examples that maybe students can graduate with from high school with the certificates already. In other cases, there's programs like MiraCosta TCI, which is very similar or close to our community. And they are great. The students can go there after high school and take 15-week courses in a specific job type, and they can go directly into the workforce. So that's a great program to highlight to students. On the next page, we have trade and vocational schools, and those are the ones that you may hear commercials of, or medical institutes, or accounting academy, UTI, Universal Technical Institute, where the students do pay money, but they're getting hands-on learning in a specific trade, and then they would go directly into the workforce. And then finally, the 4th category is a lot of 4-year colleges offer very career-focused degrees. So a student may really want to be 4-year college bound and have that college experience and live in a dorm and have, be in the sports team but also be able to be in a hands-on learning environment. And so something like Johnson & Wales or the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, FITM, they offer 2-year, 4-year programs, and it's very correlated to the industry. And so there's a huge concentration and connection to where the students will get employed after they graduate, but it also gives them a glimpse and a little bit of that traditional college experience. So those are just different categories to make sure the students are familiar with. And then also, as we talked about earlier, as educators, we don't often market all the great things that we do because, frankly, I don't think we have time to market it. We need like our own marketing department. But here's a few ways, and there's just one slide you can refer back to in different ways to market the great work that you're already doing. So social media, many of you already have Instagram accounts, or your CTE teachers do, or as your counseling office, you may have it. And I think those are great ways to reach your community. Recruitment handbooks, I was laughing about this, but I'm like, do people still make those? Those are like, it's a traditional way of showcasing all the great things you do. Usually like a very long one, but it takes a lot of work to create it. Events, CTE expos or career fairs, guest speakers. And when you have those events, showcase it on your Instagram or show people that you're doing it. So, and not just community, show your school board, show your principal, tell your district office so they know all the great things that are happening. A lot of schools have their video film pathways, create pathway videos to show what courses are already being offered, and use those during your course selection so that your students can watch these videos and see what these courses are about instead of just reading about them online. And influencers, we all know influencers are pretty prominent these days, but utilizing your own students who are in CTE pathway classes or a part of these programs to share that information with other students and get students excited so they could be an ambassador, or they could be a part of a leadership program on your campus. Looking at content, developing pathway flyers. I know our district uses Canva for things to make a little bit more graphically stimulating, posters, banners, whatever you can to pin up now that we're back in school and students will pass things by as they're walking by the counseling office or different classrooms. CTSO, for those of you that don't know, is a career technical student organization. That's a leadership program, and it's one of the 12 elements of a high quality CTE program. So every CTE pathway should either have a CTSO. So for example, business management pathway, DECA, is a popular one. And that's what kind of like a student club where there's different officers. And if the pathway doesn't have this, then they can work toward it in different ways. So that's kind of up to the CTE pathway teacher. And I think it's your turn, Nicole.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. So information dump. How's everybody doing? Taking a breath, hopefully having some lunch, coffee, reboot. Okay. All right. We're going to transition into labor market information. This kind of falls under the why, because we want to make sure that when we're talking about career planning, again, that we're making intentional choices to provide kids with tools to prepare for a job that's actually going to give them financial security, right? So there's work in this field, there's labor market information that shows this is an emerging sector. You can live in the community and make enough money to live here. There's 3 different resources we're going to share with you here, and then I'm going to break down what it looks like on a little bit more of a regional level. Labor market data for San Diego. There's great labor market briefs and data provided by the San Diego Workforce Partnership. So they talk about those high growth, high wage industries, and they do regular reports that they update. If you want to look at the overall state of California, California Occupational Guides is a great resource for that. They talk about the job outlook, usually like 5, 10, 20 years out, and what types of requirements and education you need to have a particular job. And then there's this salary surfer tool that gives you some salary information data as well. So again, things to circle back to. But when you're talking directly with students, this is where that labor market piece is very mystifying, and even teachers oftentimes don't know as much about it. These are the types of conversations that you would be having. So when you're asking, students about their future, they might be thinking, well, will there be opportunities in the field I'm considering after I complete the required training or education? So you can look at labor market information, which they abbreviate LMI, to predict emerging sectors so students can make informed decisions. You can look at what's going to be out there so they're better equipped to find employment and avoid college debt, right? Spend 4 years doing something that they determine after the fact, oh, there's not really a lot of jobs in my area with this particular major. What jobs are hiring now? How much am I going to earn? So looking at labor market information, they're going to tell you, great, you're going to make this much a year annually. That's going to, support you in living in this particular lifestyle that you're hoping for. And where geographically will I be able to find a job? So maybe there's a passion that a student has for a particular industry, and it isn't a priority sector in California, but labor market information will indicate, but good news, there are jobs in Colorado in this particular field, or there are jobs in, the East Coast. So that's something that you can use labor market information to share as well. All right. So for those of you that live here in San Diego County, which I anticipate many of you do, this graph is a little bit terrifying. I'm going to break it down for you, but in essence, we're looking at median home prices in San Diego. Is anybody having anxiety and heart palpitations? Yep, they're going up. So right now, believe it or not, this is North County, San Diego, but the median home price in North County, San Diego, as of October, was over $900,000. Goodness gracious. Yes, it's true. If you look at all of San Diego County, it's a little bit lower, but not much. And you can see just from 2020, 2 years ago, where it was in the 700s, what's happening here with that trajectory. So the takeaway there is, if you have students that are graduating from high school that want to live in the community where they grew up, they have to make money because the cost of living is extremely high here. Understanding labor market information is important because you talk to a lot of kids and they want to stay living in the surrounding region where they go to school. So having those conversations surrounding income is important. Where do you find it? Okay, so again, labor market information tends to be somewhat of a mystifying thing. We already mentioned that the regional consortium, the community college consortium, puts together these briefs at careered.org, and they have that program finder tool. So that's a great resource as well. This is that guide that Jayme was referencing earlier that has information in it as well as links. You can also find it in this is the regional consortium. So myworkforceconnection.org, they've got the briefs and the special reports. And then workforce.org will give you posters that you can post in your classroom or in your district office or wherever you work, as well as some other student-friendly resources. Just to kind of go in a deep dive briefly, when you look in this career education guide, not only does it give you kind of fast facts, like these are the jobs that are available here in the region. There's an 8% projected growth over the next 5 years in this particular industry. But they also give you these RIASEC codes. So if you're in many districts now at the middle school level are adopting these strengths inventories or these interest inventories where students take these question profilers and it tells them, hey, you're a realistic or a conventional learner. And some of these resources for career readiness link up with that, which is kind of nice. The other thing that they do is they break down job opportunities by education level. So you can see, okay, these jobs listed here are for no formal education after high school, if this is about how much you're going to make. Then they've got ones for if you do an AA program or certificate, you might make a little bit more. And if you're doing post-secondary, like a 4-year degree or such, you're going to make approximately this much. So giving kids a ballpark idea. The other thing that I like with some of these sector briefs is they give a list of local employers. So they actually list, these are things that are familiar to kids, like, oh yeah, Qualcomm or Raytheon, like they're in my immediate community. My uncle works for them. So they list some of those employers and talk specifically about, are you the type of person that's interested in STEM? Do you like to work collaboratively in a fast-paced environment? And again, they break it down by, here's approximately what you're going to make if you're looking at straight out of high school, or if you want to go for some, higher degree. All right, the last thing, these are again, some just general resources, fastest growing jobs in California, the top 100 is listed there. And then this is just a procured like 1-pager labor market brief. It has all of our priority sectors here for the San Diego region linked there with some other fun stuff. All right. We're getting to the wrap up. Jayme, over to you.
And in the spirit of the holidays, we wanted to wrap this all up for you all with a nice little bow and make it easy so that you can walk away and leave the client thinking. That's what we all do as counselors. And think about this as you're driving home today of like, okay, what's one thing I could potentially work with my school site or districts to amplify for this career guidance for our students. So we're going to go into the 5 W's and 1 H, starting with the what. What are we doing? We're introducing and informing our students about a variety of post-secondary opportunities that may be a better fit for them individually. So again, not focusing on one better than the other, but we are showcasing all. How are we doing this? We're integrating our career conversations in individual and group counseling activities. So obviously I'm a counselor, I wrote this all as a counselor. So at any time when you're talking with students individually or in a group captive audience, integrating this career piece. Working with other faculty and staff at your schools. You have usually avid teachers. Our district has college application classes. Any class or teachers that could be an agent for change on your campus, share this really cool information with them, or ask them to, if you could come into a class one day, maybe it's a late start, or maybe it's a minimum day or something where, it's an off schedule. Could I come in and do a presentation? I think this might be really interesting to your students. Ensure to communicate with your school admin so they know what's happening and the value of this. And so it's not something that's looked at as separate, like, oh, the counselors, they would do that career thing again. It's like they can understand how this is part of the whole school-wide systemically. And then using that creative marketing that we talked about. And I know when I worked at Torrey Pines, we had 6 counselors, so we all had adjunct duties, and it was a nice way to break up the workload, and one of us did more of the marketing. So whatever works in your system to find it so it's an easier lift on everyone. And the why are we doing this? Because our local, state, and national labor market information is telling us that we can't not do this. There's so many jobs out there, and there's such a a motivation to educate our students in K through 12, in community college and beyond, of what opportunities and what jobs are available to them. And as we did a parent presentation last night on career programs, and one of the questions was, well, how do we know what the jobs will be in 10 years from now? How do we know what I should be preparing my student for who's a 6th grader when they graduate from high school? So things change, and as we've seen, it's changed drastically. And that's where those reports that Nicole shared are really valuable, because it shows the increase in the projection in those careers. So to do that, we are normalizing and celebrating career education. And again, it's not just one time a year when you do it during the career month, or the, to the students that maybe aren't in the college application conversation. It should be widespread throughout the year. And when do we do it? As much as you can, multiple times a year. Any conversation that can be led by informed and passionate adults. So as agents for change on your campus, sharing just data, snippets of information with your all staff, with departments, with your admin, be like, isn't this interesting? Did you know this information? Or did you see this video? And maybe 1 out of the 10 will actually look at it and read it. And that's an additional person that you have on your team. When you are communicating with parents, or you're sending out like your monthly update, maybe include an image or a piece of data that's just kind of get someone thinking. And highlighting a career opportunity. Where can we do this? School-wide announcements. You can do like a fact of the week. Homeroom advisory time. You could do different, even screencastifies or lessons. We have Thrively, like I mentioned, and they have prepackaged lessons that you could just shoot out during advisory time. Grade level guidance lessons, like I mentioned, our counselors used that Kevin Fleming video during that time, and it was really well received. Different events that are dedicated to career, so career days or college and career nights, combining college and career when you have those conversations. So again, one is not better than the other. Different classroom lessons through those AVID classes, guest speakers, field trips, anywhere you can thinking creatively. And now we're at the grand finale, the resources. So we're hoping that this is a presentation you will bookmark and you will come back to and reference. Even if it's in April and you're planning for your next school year and you're like, wait, I went to that session and there was that one thing, and just know to come back and peruse all these resources that we've linked for you.
We shared the first video and the third one, but there is actually a lesson that's attached, or I should say a folder that's attached to each of these, and they are free and they are available for people to download and use. And they're not grade specific, which is kind of nice. So something maybe as a jumping off point, if you have a leadership committee or a planning committee that's going to gather and maybe start some of this work at your site. And then at the early stages of this hour, I talked to you about employability and essential skills. So I just linked those 2 reports there. And I think we now have turned off the fire hose of information. And we are taking questions if you have them, if you have feedback. If you want more information, you can reach out to Jayme or myself, and we are available to answer questions on that. And I think we are
any other ideas?
Of an hour.
Yeah, if anyone has ideas that we didn't share that you currently are using in your schools, we're welcome to hear that too. You can put it in the chat or unmute yourself, or through the conference app as well.
It looks like Leslie also put some of those sector handouts in the chat as well. So thank you.
I was trying to keep up with all the fabulous resources you ladies were sharing.
It was an information dump for sure.
That's
but
great.
Thank you. You've got a lot of them in here. So this is really cool. Thank you.
So far there's no questions. Folks in the Whova app are just saying excellent information. Thank you. Great information. Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, we know from our experiences attending these as well that it's oftentimes just, a brief break in your day when you're trying to catch some inspiration, and it's not until much later on that you have a minute to go back and digest what it is you're going to use. So hopefully, as Jayme mentioned, this is an opportunity for you to, have this as a resource, circle back. And if there's things you can't find that you'd like us to share with you, please reach out. We are happy to share, and we love getting ideas from others. That's how we do all of this work, right? We use each other.
And our contact information is on the Whova app, I believe, so you can contact us that way. And just thank you all for your time and your willingness to engage in this conversation. It's such an exciting time for our students.